Netflix's epic historical drama, The Last Kingdom, came to an end in March. After 5 highly acclaimed seasons, Uhtred's cry of "To Bebbanburg" is now a toast, and not just a direction of travel. He's finally made it back home. In today's video, let's recap some important storylines from Season 5 you might have missed, and discuss how the show's ending paves the way for the upcoming feature-length movie, 7 Kings Must Die. Let's start with how Season 5 ended. Over the years, every single twist of fate that took Uhtred further from his childhood fortress led to this very moment, when his destiny and that of the Wessex throne became one and the same. He now has a home for his children, a stronghold for his people, and most importantly, a future. He even has the blessing of the gods in the rainstorm that put out the fire started by King Constantine's army, both an act of Thor and another holy baptism for the Saxon Dane. That future isn't going to be all peace and calm though, as the final season's ending showed. The quest for Bebbanburg might have been resolved, but it resulted in fresh conflict with the king, and put a barrier in the way of Edward fulfilling his father's dream of a united England. The villains may have been slain, but threats still remain. Not to forget, Uhtred's family is about to grow with the return of Osbert, his youngest son, and so the drama and action continues. Now let's discuss Uhtred versus Edward. When Uhtred proposed the Bebbanburg mission to King Edward, the original pitch was to ambush Constantine's army on the road, while his own band infiltrated the castle to capture the treacherous Lord Ethelhelm and rescue Elfwin, the king's niece. Uhtred would then be installed as leader of the Northumbrian castle and hold the lands in Edward's name. When Uhtred's cousin Wutgar swore allegiance to King Constantine of Scotia, it made Bebbanburg a threat to Edward's rule and a potential site of Scottish rebellion. With Uhtred sworn to him and in power, Edward could finally complete the jigsaw and unite England as one kingdom. It took some time convincing Edward, but he reluctantly agreed to the plan and then publicly took credit for it, just the typical way of Wessex kings benefiting from Uhtred's military expertise. When Constantine surprised them by arriving at the fortress early, the strategy had to be redesigned, but Edward's impatience and pride came close to ruining everything. He stormed the castle early, unaware that Constantine's army was close behind, and suffered a terrible attack. It was only after the arrival of Stjora's Danish troops, recruited by none other than Lady Elswith, that turned the tide as they managed to defeat Constantine's men. When it came to exchanging prisoners, Constantine promised Uhtred that he would always fight for his claim on Northumbrian lands, in order to establish a longer peace and make Bebbanburg a Saxon land where Danes could thrive. Uhtred reluctantly bargained with him. Constantine argued he would give up his claim on Bebbanburg in exchange for Uhtred not swearing the fortress to King Edward, and so the promise was made. We will remain between the two, sworn to neither, to ensure peace. Or so we thought. Even though he acknowledged Edward as overlord and paid tribute to Wessex, it enraged the king that Uhtred had kept Northumbria independent, since it stopped him from fulfilling his father's dream. Uhtred told Edward that the conflict the king had sown between Saxon and Dane in the matter of Sigtryg meant he wasn't the right man to unite all of England. Still, he believed it would happen eventually, telling him, "The future will come, wait for it." But as we saw in Season 5, waiting just wasn't Edward's strong point. The Wessex king was last seen plotting his military strategy, so it's fair to assume the deal between them is definitely off. Up next, we have Ragnvaldr in Ifuvik. South of Bebbanburg, the city of Ifuvik was left under the rule of Sigtryg's brother Ragnvaldr. When Stjoria refused to bend the knee to Edward and rule the city under his name, Edward looked on to the next available puppet he could put on the throne. Ragnvaldr readily accepted and was last seen lording it up and demanding ale from his subjects. And considering what we know about Ragnvaldr, it just doesn't foreshadow well for the city. He used to be a drunken womanizer who was radicalized by Brida's cult and betrayed his brother to let her attack the city. Knowing how selfish and disloyal he is, there's no chance he'll be a wise leader. This is sure to end in trouble. And now, for the return of Osbert. Fans have been looking forward to Uhtred's youngest son returning ever since he went without a mention when young Uhtred and Stjora arrived during Season 4. Now we all know exactly where he's been, with hold on the holy island of Lindisfarne. A scene in the finale showed Hild leading young Osbert along the beach. They were off to meet the new Lord of Bebbanburg, Bebbanburg, who Hild says can teach him about his origins. When Osbert asks Hild if she'd ever met his father, she smiled and replied something like that. Osbert is young Uhtred and Stjora's younger brother, and the son of Uhtred and Gisela, who died giving birth to him in Season 3. He's now grown up as a Christian with no knowledge of his roots, so the eventual introduction to his family should provide plenty of drama. Next, love is in the air for Uhtred and Edith. Any woman who falls for Uhtred should consider her days numbered. The guy just seems cursed to lose lovers. Skipping over Mildred, every single one of Uhtred's ladies has died. Brida, Gisela, Iseult, and Ethelfled. Now it seems as though Edith is moving into position as Uhtred's next love interest, though perhaps it's probably best the healer keeps her distance. When Edith returned from her travels in Francia, Uhtred greeted her warmly, and the pair exchanged a bit of flirtation, or so it seemed. At the end of the finale, Uhtred invites Edith to remain in Bebbanburg, an offer which she accepts. Little does she know, she's not the only one. And now, Lady Elswith lives on. In a show where characters drop like flies, the longevity of Lady Elswith has been one of the last kingdom's biggest surprises. At the end of Season 5, Elswith is still standing, and she's not just standing, she's planning to move into Bebbanburg along with Edith, demanding a room with sea views. Talk about spirit. Den of Geek actually spoke to Eliza Butterworth about Elswith's long life. Even the actress admitted it was quite a bit of surprise for her. Everybody assumed that Elswith had met her end after being poisoned by Ethelhelm at the end of Season 4, but it seems like she has no intention of going anywhere anytime soon. Butterworth also noted it was quite lovely that her character keeps coming back again and again. Since Elswith's family finally found her redemption in Season 4, where she saw her wrongdoing and tried to make amends, it's nice of the writers to give her another breath of life, rather than be a typical pessimist. Butterworth further described Edith and Elswith as the dynamic duo that nobody knew they needed. She even compared her character's comedy factor in her old age to Maggie Smith of Downton Abbey. It's pretty accurate too. The old lady's always making ridiculous comments, and she's mostly right. Still, you can't help but giggle at them. Then we have Eadgifu, Ethelstan, and Edward's successor. It's no spoiler to anyone familiar with English history that Ethelstan will succeed Edward as king, and Season 5 saw the boy in training for leadership and a career on the battlefield, trained by none other than Uhtred himself. Ethelstan proved brave, loyal, wise, and a true son of Uhtred during Season 5. He is likely to remain in Bebbanburg, where he'll continue preparing for rule. We also know that Edward's third wife, Eadgifu of Kent, had 4 surviving children with Edward, 2 of whom went on to become king after Ethelstan's rule, who died without his own heir. And finally, who died in Season 5. In rough order of their demises, the following people perished in the final season: Brida's daughter Vibeke, Ethelfled of Mercia, King Alfred's bastard son of Osferth, Edward's second wife Queen Elfled, Stjora's husband Sigtrygr, Brida, the deceitful Bressel, Sigtrygg's man Woland, Danish mercenary Haston, Witger's guard Yaya, Uhtred's cousin Witger, and the scheming Lord Ethelhelm. The list is long, and it seems like these characters won't be in the Netflix movie anytime soon. Although, we can't say anything about ghostly visions and flashbacks. So, who survived for the movie? The main characters who remain intact for the next part of the storyline are Uhtred, obviously, his children young Uhtred, Stjora, and Osbert, his men Sihtric and Finan plus their families, Lady Edith, Father Perlig, and Abbess Hild. In the Wessex royal family, there's King Edward, his current wife Eadgifu, his sons Elfward and Ethelstan, mother Elswith, and niece Elfwin, and her mother's advisor, Lord Aldhelm. On the Danish side, we have Ragnvaldr. Father Benedict survived too, as did Elfwin's betrothed Sinleif. And finally, there's King Constantine and his nephew. There's no doubt they'll be joined by some new allies and threats. We'll be sure to bring you more 7 Kings Must Die news as it arrives. And that's a wrap for this video. What did you think was the most shocking plot in Season 5 of The Last Kingdom? Are you excited for the upcoming film 7 Kings Must Die? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.